week 5 of a series of conversations we're having. We've called it Great and Glorious, and we're taking our text, taking some thoughts from the book of Nehemiah, which is in the Old Testament, and specifically Nehemiah chapter 4, verse 14 has been our launchpad scripture for these talks. And so it's the one we want you to memorize. It's the one I hope we say so much that you can never forget it. And it reads like this. It says, "Then as I looked over the situation," now this is a guy named Nehemiah. This is his autobiography. He writes about a situation where God put a vision on his heart to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. So he says, "I looked over the situation. I called together the nobles and the rest of the people, and I said to them, 'Don't be afraid of the enemy. Remember the Lord who's great and glorious, and fight for your brothers, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your homes. Remember the Lord who is great and glorious." This is the whole focus of this series of talks. We want to be people who remember that we have a great and glorious God. And so regardless of what situation we may find ourselves facing, we can trust that God is leading us into a great and glorious future. That's the prayer, that's the heart, that's the hope. Let's take a moment and pray together. God, thank you that you're here today, that you've brought us all into these spaces where we can worship together. God, where we can seek your face. God, we pray that you speak to our hearts. God, we trust you with our future. God, we also trust you with the outcome of the football game tonight. We know that the Bucs are going to win. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, all right. Security. Anytime somebody disagrees with my sport takes, I feel like that would be the best time for a security team to flex their muscle, but they don't. That's okay. That's okay. Which is why I feel like it's important to talk to you about my own physical fitness journey today. And as you can tell, it's an impressive journey. And guys, here's what's been happening lately. And I don't know if anyone else has seen these ads, but I'm getting so many ads on social media. So lots of fitness ads right now, and maybe my phone is just listening to me when I talk to my wife about like how I'm feeling after eating a bag of chips or whatever. I'm not sure, but I'm getting inundated with these ads that are inviting me into fitness plans. Okay, and okay, maybe you've seen these. They're the ones where there's generally pictures of 4 men. Well, it's actually all the same man. It's just his hair gets grayer in the pictures. But he's very, very built. He's chiseled, looks very handsome. He's a cartoon picture, by the way. It's just a sketch. It's not a real person. Abs don't exist like that. And it gives this age breakdown. So it's like, hey, if you're 20 to 30 and you follow these steps and starve yourself for this many hours a day and eat this many carrots, you'll look like this guy. And then if you're 30 to 40 and you do all these things, you'll look like him here in our advanced aging sketch. And then if you're 40 to 50 and it gives you you do these things, you want to have that body in your 40, 50. And so of course, I click on them all the time because I'm like, yeah, I'd love to have that 40 to 50-year-old man's body. He's a beautiful man. Who doesn't want, I didn't know you could have that many abs. There are muscles on and this is the thing, it is a sketch. But I always click, and then I do the surveys. They want to find out what type of body you have. And I'm like, well, there's not just a naturally athletic build selection. So you got to put in your weight and all these different things. And then it shows your body mass. And then you're like, no, there's no way. And then you're like, this is it's a scam. And you do all these things, then it feeds you this report. And if you pay the money, you can actually get the detailed report, which I never do. My physical hopes and dreams die at the spot where they want me to sign up and put in my email. But they're always trying to lure you in with something different, right? Sometimes it's the intermittent fasting ones. And it's like, hey, if you don't eat for 22 hours a day, but do eat for 2 hours a day, you're gonna be a jack show. And I'm like, okay, all right. There's the ones that tell you, are you tired of having to eat salad all the time? Do you wanna eat burgers and pizza? I'm like, yes, I do. And so it's like, take this pill. And I'm like, okay. And then the pills don't work. And I try them all. But this week, I saw one, and it was taunting people who value a good cardio workout. And it actually said, I clicked on it, because I'm like, I'd love to look like that 40 to 50-year-old man. And I clicked on it, and it said, "Are you tired of doing cardio and still being soft?" And I thought, yes, I am tired of running and still being soft. Do you want to firm up for your woman? I'm like, I think I do. So what do you, and I get drawn into this thing, and it starts telling me that I need to do resistance training. Like resistance. Now, before, I don't need anybody to text me or anything. I understand. I know what resistance training is. I know you can lift weights. I know that some of you like use the bands, which is totally ridiculous, and body weight stuff. I get that. Okay, I understand the theory behind it, but the packaging is ridiculous. Don't call it resistance training. There's nothing about me that wants to, like, this is not Star Wars. I'm not part of the resistance. I don't want to jump in and do this. Like, you could, if it's like, hey, if you did this workout plan, I like the sounds of a workout better than being part of the resistance. I want to work out. It makes me feel like I'm making progress, like I'm working out my soft issues and tissues, like I'm getting better, I'm improving, like things are advancing, we're moving in, like working out. Resistance just makes me feel like you're against me. Right? Like, why do you hate me so much? By definition, it is to prevent something from happening. I don't want to start a workout plan that's preventing me from being something. I want to start a workout plan that's working with me to accomplish my goals. But this one's all about resistance training. You got to do some resistance training. And I know there are some strong advocates for resistance training in the room. And so, yeah. Turns out you can't look like any of you guys by just taking a pill, and maybe resistance training is the way to go, but we need to repackage it because resistance doesn't sound positive. And the truth is, if you're trying to accomplish anything great in your life, you're going to have to deal with resistance. There's going to be challenges, there's going to be opposition, not just in the gym. You want to start eating healthy, there's going to be resistance because you can go to only the produce section, but then when you go to the checkout, it's all these chocolate bars and you got to resist the devil and run the other way. There's resistance. You want to move ahead in your career. There are going to be challenges. You want to get out of debt. There are going to be challenges. You want to build the family that God's dropped in your heart to build and have that kind of marriage and relationships. There's going to be resistance and challenges and obstacles. It is a universal truth that the greater your vision, the greater your challenges. The greater the steps of faith you're trying to take in your life, the greater the resistance you're going to feel as you move forward. The more you try to be obedient to God and honor God and live the way that God created us to live, the more it's going to seem like things are working against us. And this is especially true if you're kind of new to the journey. If you're new to the whole like follow the ways and teaching of Jesus thing. If you're new to that, then don't be surprised when you run up against some resistance. Don't be surprised when there's people in your world who don't understand why you're doing the things you're doing and why you get up at like minus 57 to come to church. They're not going to understand. They're not going to understand why you jump in online every week and like worship along and make this part of your routine. They're not going to understand why things are different about you. There's going to be resistance. There's going to be internal resistance where you've got old habits that are dying hard and you're going to be fighting against some things. It happens. There's going to be resistance. But the people who have a strong enough vision and actually hit their goals and accomplish something great in their lives have this moment where it's like a switch goes off and you realize that the very thing that is resisting me or seems to be working against me will actually work for me if I keep going. That until you accept the fact that the force being applied against you is actually being used to develop your strength and develop your character and develop your calling, you'll never get there. But man, if that switch trips, if you flick that switch and you realize, oh, this is for my benefit, it changes the way you think about resistance. This is Nehemiah's story. Nehemiah, of course, learns about the destruction in Jerusalem, the walls being torn down, the gates burning. It's been 140 years. Nobody's rebuilt them. The people are in disarray. It's chaos. They're discouraged. They're hopeless. His heart gets broken. He grabs this God's vision for the people in the city of Jerusalem and decides, I've got to go back and rebuild the walls. And of course, with great vision comes great resistance. And so there are critics, there are people who oppose him, there are naysayers, there are some challenges that he has to deal with, but they really start to ramp up in Nehemiah chapter 4, because now he's not just talking about it, now he's not just planning for it, now he's not just on his way to Jerusalem, he's there, he's rallied the people, and they're starting the build on the wall. And not everyone's okay with it. And you know what? When you try to be the best version of yourself, when you try to be who God created you to be, when you try to live with vision and purpose and intentionality, not everybody is going to be okay with it. There are going to be some people who don't like the new you and want you to stay the old you. And the reason they want you to stay the old you is because it just enables them to stay the old them. And so you got to know what to do when you face resistance and opposition. Nehemiah chapter 4, verse 1, we see this come full force. It says, when Sanballat heard that they were rebuilding the wall, he became angry and was greatly incensed. He ridiculed the Jews, and in the presence of his associates and the army of Samaria, he said, what are those feeble Jews doing? Will they restore their wall? Will they offer sacrifices? Will they finish in a day? Can they bring the stones back to life from those heaps of rubble, burned as they are? So Sanballat's, let me paint the picture. Sanballat's like the ringleader. So he gets his crew together, his cronies, he rallies them up, and he starts to talk negatively and spread negative thoughts about Nehemiah and the Jewish people that are rebuilding the walls. Why are they even doing this? It's not going to work. Are they crazy? Do they think God is just going to show up and do a supernatural miracle and rebuild the walls for them? They'll never do it in a day. They'll never finish what they started. So he's frustrated. Then Tobiah, the Ammonite, it just says, the Bible says he's just at his side. He's just this little guy that nobody wants around. He says, what are they building? Even a fox climbing on it would break down their wall of stones. It's like that guy that's not confident enough to be the one who goes first, but just slips that in at the end. Shut up, Tobiah. Okay, so but he got a verse. He got a full verse in the Bible there. It's pretty impressive. Okay, gosh, all right. These guys were local governors. They're regional leaders. They know that an economically strong and a militarily strong Jewish people means an end to their control in this particular region. And so they begin to criticize Nehemiah. See, the goal of criticism, and most of the resistance you're going to feel, I'd say the vast majority is going to come in the form of criticism. People that don't understand, people that don't speak well of you. Criticism. Criticism, and the intent of criticism is always to disrupt or derail a future plan. And so they begin to criticize Nehemiah. They don't like him because he's not okay with accepting the status quo. They begin to throw these critical thoughts out in his direction. Listen, vision always attracts criticism. Don't be shocked. You will always face criticism when you live with big vision. It is amazing that when you actually pursue your goals, when you actually run after a vision, when you actually start to make changes and live with some ambition, it will draw the critics out of their mom's basements when they put down the controller from playing Minecraft and lick the cheesies off of their fingers just to tell you how much they don't like what you're doing. Listen, vision attracts criticism. Why? Because vision brings change. Nobody has ever laid out a compelling vision for things to stay the same. You ever heard you've never heard a visionary say, things are perfect exactly as they are. Let's maintain the status quo. No. Vision is always about the future. It's always about change. And so insecure people take it personally. What happens is change actually plays on the insecurities of those who've grown accustomed to the way things are. And so they get frustrated. They get upset. See, most of us love the same. We love things being the same. I know that we love things being the same because most of you, when you roll up in here on a Sunday, sit in relatively the same spot every week. It throws me off when you change seats. I'm like, where did they go? Are they okay? It could be weeks. You just moved back a row. I haven't seen you. I'm starting to worry, So we're creatures of habit. We like things that are predictable. We like when things are the same. The Harvard Business Review published an article citing the top 2 reasons people oppose change are because of the loss of control and the future uncertainty that comes with change. We love predictability. We are so drawn to things staying the same that we will choose sameness over personal convictions. We'll choose sameness over what's right because we just want to be the same. So if culture and media and the world is telling you that this is what everyone thinks and this is what everyone's doing and this is the goal and this is the ideal, we'll actually embrace that just to be the same. We'll go for it just because we want to lean into what's the same. The unknown makes us so uncomfortable that it gets to the point where many people will remain in painful situations and painful relationships and painful addiction and painful patterns, choosing the predictability of pain over the unknown of change. We resist change. Sanballat is resistant to change. He has the most to lose. He is the most influential guy in the region. He has the majority of the power in the region. And he's personally offended that this project to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem is going forward, and he wasn't consulted about it. Because see, Nehemiah didn't bother going to the little guy. He just jumped a couple levels and went to his boss, the king. And so Sanballat's offended. He's upset. The thing is, and this is what's interesting about Sanballat, for all of the criticism and the tactics that he throws at Nehemiah, he doesn't have any authority to stop the job from happening. I mean, the job has been given the okay by a greater authority. So this low-level leader doesn't have any place to actually jump in and shut the job down. So because he doesn't have authority, he tries to discourage Nehemiah to the point where he'll stop making a difference. Now let's just talk authority for a moment and bring this into 2021 instead of into the time of Nehemiah. The truth is that right now on the planet, the devil does not have any authority in your life to stop you from being who God created you to be. The devil has no authority to stop the God dream, to stop the God vision that's been deposited on the inside of you. But we have to recognize there's a difference between influence and authority. He doesn't have authority, but we give him influence because we listen to his nonsense. Every time you listen to somebody, you give them influence. Every time you scroll and look at their post, you give them influence. They don't have authority, but you've given them influence. And many of us are being controlled by our influences and not by our authorities. If we would actually understand that there is only one who has authority, and he's actually given you the authority to build a life, to live with purpose, given you the authority to experience healing and freedom and joy and hope. He's got the authority to make those things happen. We would stop giving influence to the lies of the devil. Why do we do that? All he can do is talk. 1 Peter 5 verse 8 says that the devil moves around like a roaring lion, seeking those whom he may devour. Now, he's like a lion. He's not a lion. He doesn't have the authority of a lion. He doesn't have the power of a lion, but he makes a lot of noise. And because he makes a lot of noise, and because we have a tendency to listen, and because the walls are down and the gates are burning, we're susceptible to attack, we give him influence, thereby power and control in regions of our life. We have to make sure that the most influential voices are also the most authoritative voices. And so you've got to make sure you've aligned yourself and understand that I'm going to listen to the voice of real authority, who is Jesus. And the Bible says that his sheep will know his voice. You've got to know his voice and spend enough time with him that you can discern what's him and what's the devil, and make sure we're coming under the authority of the one who can actually lead us into a great and glorious future, and not giving the influence over to the devil. The devil is terrified that you and I would run after a God vision. He's terrified because the minute we decide to block out his noise and to run after God's vision and dream, he loses all of his control in the region of your heart and in your life. But he wants you to give up. That's why he's constantly trying to discourage you. He wants you to give up on the dream for a family. He wants you to give up on the dream for your faith. He wants you to give up on the dream for your marriage, or the dream for your sobriety, or the dream for your freedom. And so he'll yell and he'll scream and he'll criticize. But we can be confident today that even though he is the prince of this world, the devil is a low-level player there in a much bigger cosmic picture where God is on the throne and in ultimate control. And if God put it in you to do, then he'll make sure it happens through you. Devil's just a low level. So we don't need to take our orders from popular culture. We don't need to take our orders from mass media. When you've been called by God and filled by his Spirit, and you've got the power and the vision of the Almighty God on the inside, you don't need permission from anybody else to be healed, whole, filled, faithful, and set apart. So criticism is a killer. Oh, but it's also a good trainer. It doesn't have to take you down if you keep building. Criticism's gonna come, it's a guarantee. When we first came to Calgary, it was going back like almost exactly 9 years. And the first person, some of you may have heard this story, but the first person that reached out to meet with me was a pastor from the city. And he reached out, we went for lunch, and I'm not comparing him to the devil, so just make sure that you don't think that that's the case. But it's funny how the devil will use what other people say and he'll just put it on repeat in your mind. Isn't that weird? And so in the matter of like a few minutes I was pretty excited. I'm like, man, this is a big deal. Get to connect with somebody from the city. Maybe we're gonna work together to build the kingdom. Come on, we're gonna be best friends. It's so good. And he said, I know 11 other guys that are planting churches in the south part of Calgary. They're better funded, they've got more experience, they've got better reputations, people know them. There's no chance your church is gonna make it past a couple of years. And so now on the inside, I had several things I wanted to say. And then you know how when you leave a conversation like that and then you have all these great comebacks, you're like, oh, why didn't I say that in the moment? I had a lot of those. But you know what's beautiful about it? We kept going anyways. And when we opened our downtown campus just after our 5th birthday, he showed up and gave an offering, sowed a seed into Experience Church and said, I'm so glad you made it. I mean, isn't that crazy? We just kept going, though. We just kept going. I think Brent and Pastor Quincy would probably remember this. We had just different funny moments of like opposition and resistance along the way. We had this, when we used to be in Mountain Park School in the deep southeast, we met in a gym and we had this one guy. And if you're watching, hey man, love you. We had this one guy and he only came to church for 2 reasons. He came to tell us how terrible we were, and did that every Sunday. And if he didn't get it out in person, it was so, like the minute we walked out of church, our DMs, the church's inboxes would just be full of things on like all the stuff he hated. It's like, cool. And so he showed up to criticize, and he showed up to eat all the free food at our events. So no joke, this guy would rip in and he was putting cookies in his pocket for his kids. He'd be we knew if we had a barbecue, he was gonna be there with the whole clan. So he hated us, but had perfect attendance. It was wonderful. But then, those are just not the guys you want to be there every Sunday, but he was there, God bless him. And one Sunday, we're like, the service is happening. It's awesome, we're loving life. And he walks into the back, and things weren't as high tech back then as they are now. Now we've got power coming from all different places and all this stuff. It used to all run off one outlet. Like it was pretty hack. And so the whole thing's running off one outlet that's at the back of the gym. And he walks in, and I don't know if he didn't get his cookie or was upset because we weren't gonna give free burgers to his whole family that day, but he walked in and just unplugged the sound system at the back of the room, right in the middle of service. Like, what is going on, And I hope he comes back because we have security now. And I'd love to see him try. But listen, here's the beautiful thing. There's going to be resistance. If you stay in it, it's gonna be resistance training. You're gonna get developed. And God was, listen, We have dealt with way bigger things than somebody cutting the power in the last 8 years. But God was prepping us to not let the little things, man, to think about even the moments I wasted reading the comments that would come in from him in those days. And God was like, if you can't handle this one person, you are never going to be able to handle the vision I have for this church, because there's going to be a lot more criticism where there's a lot bigger vision. So we had to just learn then to deal with it, allow it to develop us and make us stronger so we could keep moving forward. There's going to be resistance. I should throw this out there that not every piece of criticism is meant to destroy you. Sometimes there's constructive criticism. There's constructive criticism and destructive criticism. And in fact, Nehemiah was, in chapter 2, was a constructive critic when he investigated the condition of the walls. He was looking. He needed to know what needed to be done. And so that's an important part of it. The challenge for us is, who do you listen to? How do you know who to listen to? That's why Proverbs 27:6 says the wounds from a friend are faithful. So if you're receiving criticism, this is what I do. You got to filter it. And the truth is, you might be receiving criticism from a friend because you're stupid. That happens to all of us. A friend will be like, you're being kind of dumb. You need to change the way you're thinking about that. I have those friends in my life. The wounds from a friend are faithful. But here's my filter. Whenever somebody criticizes me, I just stop and I think, is this person praying for me? Because if they're not praying for you, then they're not trying to build you up and encourage you and develop you. And so if they're not, so just listen, if they're not praying for you, just thank you very much. And just be on your way. You don't need to worry about it. You've got to be able to discern what kind of voice is actually criticizing you, because there is good criticism, but there's more often than not, we get this negative criticism trying to tear us down. How do we handle negative criticism? What does Nehemiah do? He's got it coming from all sides. Well, I got 3 thoughts. They all begin with R. I did that for you on purpose because the last 2 weeks have been 3 Ps and I needed to change my letter. So here we go. 3 thoughts on what we do to handle criticism. How do we handle opposition and resistance? I'll keep it to the R's. How do we handle resistance? Number 1, you got to refocus. You got to refocus. See, immediately after Nehemiah hears this report from his critics, he prays this prayer. Nehemiah chapter 4, verse 4. He says, "Hear us, our God, for we are despised. Turn their insults back on their own heads. Give them over as plunder in a land of captivity. Do not cover up their guilt or blot out their sins from your sight, for they have thrown insults in the face of the builders." Notice what he doesn't do. Nehemiah does not get into an argument with the critics. He does not run out to them and start defending himself. Side note, a defensive person is always somebody who's unsure of their calling. If you're defensive, then you got to get into your prayer closet and spend a little more time with Jesus and a little more time understanding what vision has he imprinted on your life, what has he called you to, who's he called you to be, because when you're confident in that, you don't need to defend yourself. So if you're seeing those tendencies in you, I speak from a place of experience. I am someone who can be overly defensive. I'm someone who finds himself often in my prayer times going back to the Lord and being like, oh, I was defensive again. Will you remind me about my purpose? I'm someone who always wants to reply to the critics. You know what I've noticed? And listen, guys, I am undefeated in online arguments. Never lost. Also never been congratulated for a victory. No one has ever given me a high five or thrown me a message and said, man, you really showed them. Like, never. Last week sometime, somebody jumped, got up off their mom's couch, licked off the cheesies, and then jumped into my DMs and had some critical things to say. And it's one of those moments where I think Natasha was out with the girls at youth. You were here. The other kids had gone to bed. And I look at my phone. I'm like, oh, man. Whew. Put my phone down. I'm like, I'm not going to get into it. I'm just going to it's cool, but then it's eating at you, right? And then, so I looked, I'm like, I wonder if he said anything else. Oh, he did. All right. You know what? I'm bigger than this. We just finished 21 days of fasting and prayer. God has been maturing me. I'm just going to leave it. Then I'm like, you know what? Natasha's not gonna be home for at least 45 minutes. I got some time. And I opened up my phone. I was like, hey, what's wrong with you? And then like 30 minutes later, my heart's racing, my hands are sweaty, my armpits are drenched, and I've had this online battle with somebody who I don't even really know, probably needs Jesus, definitely needs a life, and I've wasted 30 minutes. No reward. God spoke to me, and it's like the most random thing. I can't remember if it was Tanix or Czar, one of them called out. They were upstairs, and I went up and just kind of tucked them back in and gave them a drink, whatever it was. And when I came down, I went to check my phone again to see if so-and-so had written back. And God said, you know what? You just spent 30 minutes of your life focused on a person who could care less about you. And you've got 5 people in your home. Not one of them has received 30 minutes of your undivided attention today. I was like, oh, I'm a terrible person. You got to refocus. When criticism comes at you, you've got to take the time to refocus. That's exactly what Nehemiah does. He takes the time to pray. Now let's not sugarcoat it. It is not a nice prayer. The modern translation of what he's saying would be like, God, this is ridiculous. Deal with them. Let them be slaves for once. Don't show them any grace or mercy. Give them exactly what they deserve. I'm not suggesting that we should pray for the destruction of our critics. I don't think that's what Jesus would do. But I am suggesting that we should pray real prayers. I like the fact that Nehemiah didn't come before the Lord and pray what he thought God wanted to hear. He prayed a real prayer. It was an emotional prayer. It was a frustrated prayer. There's probably some curse words in the original manuscript that got taken out for our benefit. He's angry in the moment. And it's okay to bring our real emotions to God. Because listen, here's what happens. When you're feeling frustrated and when you're feeling attacked, if you bring it to God, there's no collateral damage. If you bring those emotions to somebody else, then all of a sudden you've drawn somebody else into the fight. If you bring them to your spouse, then all of a sudden you've elevated the stress level of your spouse. If you bring them to your kids and you're dumping your emotional baggage onto your children. If you bring them back to the critic, you're just giving the critic more fuel. If you bring it anywhere but to God, you are opening yourself up to a world of multiplied hurt and issues. He brings it to the Lord. And this is the beautiful thing. As frustrated and upset as he is, he brings it to the Lord. And prayer always puts the critics and criticism in their proper context. See, the truth about criticism is that generally when somebody criticizes you, there's an ounce of truth to it. For Nehemiah, there was truth to it. They weren't skilled workers. They weren't going to be able to build the wall in a day. They were a little bit overambitious and crazy. And when you elevate criticism in the light of your finite resources and your sketchy plans and your own weaknesses, it will always be overwhelming. But when you come to the place of prayer and you take criticism and you hold it against the backdrop of God's divinity and his calling and his plan and his provision and his power, anxiety will decrease and purpose and passion will increase. You've got to refocus when you come up against resistance. Bible says we need to fix our eyes on Jesus. One of my favorite verses, I share it all the time, the pioneer and finisher of our faith. I love that he's the pioneer. That means he goes into the future and settles it for you so it's ready when you get there. You do not have to worry about the future and how the vision's gonna play out and how God's gonna work out the details because we focus on Jesus and he settles it before we even arrive. Nehemiah says, so we rebuilt the wall till all of it reached half its height, for the people worked with all their heart. Guys, we're half done. It's amazing. And he's celebrating. Just notice, before we move on, notice what is being celebrated. It's that they worked with all of their heart. Sometimes I think we like to celebrate hard work, and we try to look over whether the heart is really part of the work. Nehemiah says, guys, we made it halfway because your hearts are right. There's a big difference between working with your whole heart and just working hard. See, we like to work hard, and so we work hard, and then because we've worked hard, what happens is if you work hard and your heart's not really in it, there are some nasty things that start to creep up on the inside. That's where entitlement comes from. Like, I've been working really hard. You should recognize me. You should promote me. You should honor me. You should acknowledge me. I'm killing it here. Does anybody see how hard I'm working? But when you've got the right heart, it's different. It was the right heart that got celebrated. Not that they were working overtime, which they were, because the right heart will always produce 110%. You're always going to give your best, because when you've got the right heart, then you've got passion. And when you've got passion, then you've got energy. When you've got energy, you understand that everything I'm doing is not for my glory, it's for His glory. And whether I'm working at a job that I really could care less about or not, I need my heart to be in it, because the way that I work is going to tell somebody something about who Jesus is and how much He loves them and His value. Like we're preaching when we work with our whole heart. They're working with their whole heart. And so because their hearts are in it and the work is getting done and they reach the halfway point, Sanballat and his crew start to get increasingly frustrated because their words of criticism are not slowing down Nehemiah's effort to rebuild. And so he summons, they really get 3 nations, tribes together, and they plan to have this 3-headed military attack, a surprise attack on Nehemiah and the workers. And the workers start to catch wind of this, and I want you to see here what happens when criticism goes unchecked. Because it says, meanwhile, the people in Judah said, the strength of the laborers is giving out. They started to get tired. There's so much rubble that we cannot rebuild the wall. So all of a sudden we see this shift. Now they're tired of building. And I still think that if there's a word that would adequately describe this season in our world and how people are feeling for so many, it's still just, I'm tired. I'm tired. And why are they tired? They're tired of the build. They're tired because there's so much rubble. There's so much, what's the rubble? The rubble is broken down pieces of the walls. There's so much brokenness. I can't bear the thought of what it's going to take to rebuild. And there might be somebody even in the room, maybe somebody watching online. And when you survey the situation of your life or your relationships or your vision or where you thought you'd be, where you hoped you'd be, you start looking around and say, man, there's so much brokenness. How could I ever rebuild? I'm so broken. How could we ever keep our relationship? It's just so broken. How could we? You get frustrated. It's an exhausting thought. Morale gets low. They say, also our enemies said, before they know it or see us, we'll be right there among them and we'll kill them and put an end to this work. And then the Jews who lived near them came and told us 10 times over, wherever you turn, they will attack us. Listen, those are terrible friends. Imagine, they're trying to rebuild the wall for Jewish people, and other Jewish people come and 10 times over tell them what a failure the whole initiative is. It's not going to work. It's not going to happen. You just imagine them getting close and just being like those heavy breathers. You're wasting your time. 10 times. And see, this is the really tricky thing about criticism is it's not always criticism, resistance. It's not always something that comes from an external source. It's not the enemy here. It's coming from the inside. And that's the difficult thing. What I've realized is that the very worst critic I have in my life is me. I've never met anybody who talks to me as poorly as I talk to myself. I've never met anybody as critical of me as I am when I talk to myself. And what happens is it's just a seed or a thought or passing comment from somebody else, but then the devil plays on it and it just gets in your heart and you just start to replay it over and over and over and over again. And if you're not careful, you start to believe the things that you hear, and criticism will get you second guessing, and you start to think, well, maybe I can't do it. Maybe it is impossible. Maybe I don't have what it takes. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe this is a waste of time. Maybe this isn't going to work. Get caught in this cycle. And so you got to refocus. And then you got to you got to take the time to understand that when seasons change, your plans might have to change too. Don't be so hard on yourself. That's where they come to. It's like this internally, they're struggling now. Clearly the plan isn't working because now we were just trying to build the wall, but now they're planning an attack on us. And it was just words before, and we could handle it when it was just words, but now it's weapons, and workers start walking off the job. And Nehemiah's like, whoa, guys, wait up. Yeah, there might be 3 nations threatening to kill us all, but that doesn't mean we need to stop. Then in verse 13, he says, therefore, I stationed some of the people behind the lowest points of the wall at the exposed places, posting them by families with their swords, spears, and bows. Verse 16 says, from that day on, half of my men did the work, while the other half were equipped with spears, shields, bows, and armor. The officers posted themselves behind all the people of Judah who were building the wall. Those who carried materials did their work with one hand and held a weapon in the other. And each of the builders wore his sword at his side while he worked. But the man who sounded the trumpet stayed with me. Listen, when you start to get discouraged, when you're feeling overwhelmed by criticism, when the external attacks, the internal voices are getting to be too much, not only do you refocus, but sometimes you got to stop and revise the plan. That's exactly what Nehemiah does. He says, guys, we are not going to quit. I have a new plan. So everybody is going to work with a hammer and you're going to pack heat at the same time. They show up to work and they're strapped up with a weapon. He says, everybody is now your own security detail. You're going to carry your weapons into work in the morning. You just roll up because, listen, sometimes you got to build and sometimes you got to battle and sometimes you need to be ready to do both at a moment's notice. The vision didn't need to change, but the plan had to be revised. Because the plan of, hey, we're just going to build, that wasn't going to work anymore because they're about to be under attack. So they got to revise the plan. We're going to build and we're going to battle. We're going to do a little bit of both. They built the first half of the wall without weapons. But now it's a new season, and new seasons require new strategies. And sometimes you've got to change to keep moving forward. The vision is still okay. The vision is still intact. A failed plan is not a failed vision. Somebody's got to be encouraged. Just because you've hit a rough patch in the relationship, just because the finances don't look good, just because you're going through a bit of a season, a failed plan does not mean God's vision for your life has failed and you can't get it back on track. Man, we had to do that here. It was the fall of 2017. We moved into Glenmore Christian Academy to start having church. Nice big venue, nice theater, felt amazing. It was awesome for 5 weeks. We jumped in there with a 5-year plan that we had talked about, thought we had negotiated, where we were going to be in there for 5 years, we were going to raise a bunch of money, and then sometime late 2022, 2023, we were going to buy a building and have a permanent church. That was the plan. Then 5 weeks in, it's like, we don't really want you here for a number of reasons, not getting into it today. It's water under the proverbial bridge, as they say. But all of a sudden, we had to reassess the plan. We had to make a decision. We had to revise what we had planned to do. The vision did not change. We were still existing to help everyone come to know Jesus. We were still existing to see relationships reconciled and people set free and addiction broken and hearts healed. We're still here for that, but we had to revise how we were going to do it. Because a failed plan isn't a failed vision. And so we just needed a new strategy. And so because we went from having years to months in that building, we worked on a strategy. And then all of a sudden you walk through some open doors, God does some things, and then you move into a permanent building 3 years ahead of when you were supposed to because you listened to the Lord and you were willing to revise when the plan got thrown on its head. There's somebody here, and life has thrown some chaos, some resistance, some criticism, some challenge. You don't need to quit. You might just need to revise. You might not need a new spouse. You might just need a new strategy. Because what helped you fall in love 20 years ago is not going to get you to the next level of your married relationship. You need a new strategy. God put it on your heart to get debt-free. Don't bail on the vision because you had some vehicle problems and they came out of nowhere and you had to borrow some line of credit money to pay it, whatever. Hey, new strategy, refocus, revise. And then the final piece to handling and navigating criticism. Nehemiah chapter 4:14. It's our verse. I love it when in a movie, it's my favorite part of the movies, when the title of the movie gets mentioned in the dialogue. Do you like that? I love that. I keep forgetting to look up an example, but I love it. It's my favorite thing, okay? It's my favorite thing, but I can't tell you. Anyways. Then as I looked over, you've got mail. It's one of the best ones. Okay, anyways, sorry. Then as I looked over the situation, I called together the nobles and the rest of the people and said to them, don't be afraid of the enemy. Remember, man, you got to refocus. You got to be willing to revise. And we've got to remember, whatever the situation, whatever the circumstance, whatever the criticism or the resistance, remember the Lord who is great and glorious. We do not need to listen to the critics. We do not need to quit because we're discouraged, because we have a great and glorious God who is leading us confidently into a great and glorious future. Now, this text was not Nehemiah preaching an eloquent sermon. He was talking directly to the Jewish people because their critical error was that they had forgotten the Lord. They forgot God. They turned their back on God. It was never God's vision for the people to be enslaved. Never. It was never his vision for the holy city to be turned into rubble. That was never God's heart, but they rejected God, and that was the byproduct. And so God says, okay, well, new strategy. And he speaks to a guy named Nehemiah, and Nehemiah steps in to do something, to start rebuilding the walls and rebuilding the people. And so when he says to them, he's talking to their broken spirit and saying, guys, we can't rebuild the wall if we don't remember the Lord. Remember the Lord. Remember, he's talking, and I imagine that there's more to the message. We get like the Cole's notes to some of these moments in Scripture, but like remember who led our ancestors out of slavery and split the Red Sea so they could walk through on dry ground. Remember who took care of us with food and bread just showing up out of nowhere in the desert and water pouring out of a rock. Remember Joshua taking the promised land and the river splitting so he could get through. Remember that our ancestors marched around a wall, didn't even have to lift a sword, and all the walls came falling down so they could step into freedom. Remember David, who slayed the giant and gave freedom to our nation. Remember what the Lord has done. So guys, remember. Psalm 103, bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not his benefits. Remember that if it wasn't for the grace and mercy of God, I don't know everybody's journey in here. I don't know everybody's journey online, but I can guarantee you this. If it wasn't for God's unmatched, unending love for you, you would not be here right now. If it was not for his grace and mercy, I would not be here right now. If it wasn't for Jesus, we wouldn't be here. So remember how he provided. Remember how he protected. Remember that every week we celebrate miracles as prayers have been answered. Remember that God has done it before. And if you remember that he's done it before, well, then we can be confident that he's going to do it again. He says, when the enemies heard that we were aware of their plot, and that God had frustrated them, we all returned to our work on the wall. We went back to the work. When you're refocused and you revise and you remember, you can get back to the work. You get back to the workout. Back to the workout. Because what you're facing right now is not meant to kill you. It's meant to develop you. It's the workout. Everybody's got a different workout plan. It's resistance training, preparation. It's just a workout. Man, that'll change things. When you start to think of all the stuff that's going on in the world and realize, okay, wait a second. What God has done essentially with his church in this season is he's pulled us together and we are all part of this intense workout plan. And so when you understand, God is just working it out. We're just working out. And when we come out on the other side of this, we're going to be stronger. We're going to have more vision. We're going to have more courage. We're going to have more boldness. We're going to have more confidence to see miracles and people set free. We're going to be a brighter light shining in our city and our nation and beyond. Like, it's just a workout. It's just a workout. Romans 8:28, he works what? All things together for the good of those who love him. It's just a workout. It's just a workout. So I'd like you to bow your heads, close your eyes. I know that there are people in the room right now and it feels like it's almost quitting time. It feels like you want to give up and give in. I'm telling you, it's just a workout. It's just a workout. If you don't quit, you're going to get stronger. If you don't quit, you're going to get through. It's just a workout. It's a workout. He's working it out for your benefit. And so Jesus, I pray for everybody in the room right now. Pray for everybody watching at home. God, thank you that it's just a workout. God, thank you that you are giving us the strength to persevere through trials and resistance and opposition. God, thank you that even right now, God, we are refocusing, we are revising, and we are remembering your goodness. And it's giving us the confidence to keep moving forward in your plans and your vision. It's just a workout. With your heads bowed and your eyes closed, I believe the most important thing that we can remember today is that God's vision for humanity was always that we would have perfect relationship with him. He created Adam and Eve to have relationship with him, and they listened to the devil and things fell apart. They allowed the devil to be an influencer. Fast forward, see, this is a beautiful thing. The whole time God had a strategy. His name was Jesus. And so he sent his strategy, change his strategy, to bring us back into relationship. Romans 5:8, but God demonstrates his own love for us in this. And while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Imperfect, broken, incomplete. We could not uphold our end of the plan, but God had a strategy for the season, and he sent his son Jesus. And if we would look to him, even in our sin and brokenness, he will save us. It's his plan. And so I want to just give that opportunity before we're done today. There are people here both in the room and online, and you've never made the decision to give your life to Jesus, and so you feel overwhelmed by the mistakes of your past and the pain of your decisions and actions, and it might seem like there's no escape. I'm telling you right now, you and I might have botched up the plan, but God always had a strategy to get us back on track. His vision has always been for you and with you. He's always had a strategy, and it's Jesus. And if you would take a moment today to say, I trust Jesus with my future, then I believe that your entire life could change. We just need to have that moment where we accept him into our heart. Say, Jesus, I need you. Forgive me of my sins. So I'm going to count to 3. And if that's you here today or watching online and you know it's time to get your life right with Jesus, when I hit 3, I want you to slip up your hand. You can even do this from home, just as a sign. Just slip up your hand wherever you are and just acknowledging this is the moment when I'm saying yes to Jesus. Now, here we go. 1, 2, this moment's for you right here. God brought you here on purpose. 3, go ahead. Nobody's looking around. Slip up your hand. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you in the room. We know there's more online. If you're feeling that in your heart today, would you just pray this simple prayer after me? EC, let's say it together. Say, Jesus, I need you. I need you in my life. Forgive me for my sins. Come into my heart. Amen.